Hello, and welcome to Round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Terry Morrow, and I'm here with Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast, we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Catherine and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics, because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. This week, we finished Veronica Mars Season 3, which should be the end of Veronica Mars, but of course it's not. And welcome to the return of Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist after a one-week break for the Oscars. So on Zoey, we had an episode called Zoey's Extraordinary Double Date. And I know it's a surprise to people watching, but it's about Zoey's love life. And you know what about Zoey's love life? It's unsettled. Maybe she still has feelings for Max now that she's with Simon. Who could have possibly guessed that this is the way the plot would go? Stop! Stop! Maybe Zoey would like to get into gambling, really. I think maybe her mother should bring her to the casino. Give this girl a hobby. And, I'm happy that the psychiatrist said maybe it's about loss, because that's interesting.
Yes.
It being about them having no idea what to do with a young woman in her own TV series, but have her bounce back and forth between two cute guys, not so interesting. So, I don't know. It's obviously going to be like this forever and ever. And, it keeps those actors employed, so cool. But,
I feel like this one had a lot of musical numbers.
It did, and they were good musical numbers, and I enjoyed it.
Although it did feel a little bad for Mary Steenburgen having to sing with Bernadette Peters.
I know. Whoa. This is not fair. This is like Lauren Graham having to sing with Renee Elise Goldsberry. It's just not fair. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It was a fun little number, but yes, unfortunate in that. But but it was, the singing was all very fun. The whole race in San Francisco with the costumes and stuff. I'm sure that's a thing that actually happens.
Yes.
But it's, kind of contrived to make it part of your show. But, okay.
I also was like, how did they COVID test this huge crowd? Like,
oh yeah, to film it. I was going to say the show exists in a non-COVID universe, right, but the production does not.
Film it. Yeah.
That is a good question.
I mean, some people's costumes incorporated masks, I guess, but not most people.
Interesting. I wonder. They just quarantined everybody for 2 weeks together.
Before they did this flash.
You will be on screen for 40 seconds, but in return for which, it was fun though. It was good.
Yeah.
And,
How do you feel about Leaf's drone phone?
I think it's ridiculous and in no way would be a thing. But, okay. And I thought that Tobin and the female programmer had hooked up already, but...
Me too.
You go, kids. That's fine.
It was very cute the way he told Leaf about it, and they jumped up and down very excited.
In their completely visible office, which... Of the many ridiculous things about this. I guess that's a thing that exists in the real world, which is one of many, many reasons I never want to go back to working in an office.
Right.
I want walls. I want doors. I want to be able to, eat my lunch without people staring at me. I want to be able to take personal phone calls without everybody knowing. These are important. I was very relieved, even though it's completely ridiculous, that Zoey's mom was going to the casino by herself, but she was winning money right and left, so it's okay. Right. And she was trying to lose the money in the first place.
The money from the guy who hit on her.
Yes.
I also enjoyed, Maggie and Deb, which is Bernadette Peters, and Zoey just deciding how to spend that money. Mm-hmm. Zoey had no idea how much it was, and she's like, okay, you'll spend a third on the roof and a third on the trip. And I was like, there could be $1,000 or there could be $50,000. We don't know. You need a budget before you make these decisions.
Yes.
Or else Zoey can just, because she's supposed to be a nerd, she can, estimate it in her head or something.
That's right. Well, I don't know. There's just bills all over the place. I guess she just assumed there was a lot.
It seemed like
a lot. She couldn't have just donated the money to some good cause. The original money that she didn't want to keep.
Right.
Gambling seemed like a good idea. Yeah. That she would feel better after she just completely wasted it all.
Right.
Figure out what charity that guy would most hate.
Yes. And
send the money there. That's what you do with professionally gotten gains that you do not approve of.
Right. Absolutely.
It's, there are rules about this sort of thing amongst us independent contractors. That's what you do with it.
And also, it's not like that guy harassed her. I mean, she didn't appreciate being asked out on a date, but that was kind of it. Like, he wasn't that bad. Or am I not remembering?
Did he fire her after that, or just reject all her plans after that, or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was kind of jerky, but he wasn't like...
Yes. Amongst the hierarchy of offensive behavior.
Yeah.
He was on a fairly low rung.
Right.
So I guess that's the level at which you just gamble the money away.
Right.
If it's a higher rung, then you do something to specifically offend. It's complicated.
Mo also is not allowed to be happy in love because now this is the second, nice boyfriend Mo's had that has had to go away.
Yeah. Do we feel he's definitely going away?
That's the impression I got.
Therapy's not an option, thinking about things and, I don't know. That's too bad.
It just seemed like they were looking for a breakup.
I guess so.
The show was looking for a breakup,
It's difficult on these shows because there's a perception that happy people are boring. Right. So there has to be constant turmoil. And I don't like that.
No.
I was perfectly fine with David and Maddie on Moonlighting to be together. So stop making that your reason for doing all these stupid things.
Right.
Just like for a few weeks it'd be fine. Could we have a month of happiness in any of these relationships? Well, I'm pretty sure Max is not going to go to New York forever. So there's probably some unhappiness ahead for him, unless the show doesn't make it for a third season, in which case that can be the big goodbye at the end.
Right, or it can be the sort of summer hiatus,
Yeah.
We come back.
Yeah, if that's your cliffhanger is, will one of the two handsome guys Zoey likes move out of town?
Right.
Come back in the fall. Well, I think that the show would miss Skylar Astin even if Zoey was able to get over Max.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. I was surprised though because it seemed like he and Zoey were the only two who weren't heart-songing enthusiasm for the race. Mm-hmm. And so I expected that it was going to be one of these that he's pretending to be something for Rose that he's not really. So I thought that he would then not be enthusiastic about New York, but act like he was. But in fact, he was indeed in a New York state of mind,
That's right.
Which we learned at great length and some sort of unconvincing dancing. But okay, it was, limited space.
Right.
So, and what do we think about Zoe's therapist who
came over from the office?
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
I did not recognize him, but...
Yeah, he was on the office.
Okay. Just completely not engaging with this woman thinks she hears music, and...
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he handled it the way a therapist would handle it.
Yeah.
Accepting the person where they are.
Right.
That this is weird, but this is not my job to,
yes.
tell you that you're insane. It's to help you work through it.
Yeah, see, I would think a therapist would start with, honey, there's a nice facility I'd like to talk to you about, and perhaps some medication. But, if for the purposes of the show, I kind of like that he's just, let's put that aside and talk about things that I can help you with.
Right.
So, and he had some good insights. The writers of the show had some good insights. And I enjoyed the opening number in the waiting room.
Right.
Although, if that's just one dude and he has that many people in his waiting room, he's a busy fella.
A long time.
Perhaps it's a practice with many doctors sharing a waiting room. Let's just assume that.
And also, how do you get to be 30 years old or however Zoey is without knowing that you wouldn't ask somebody else in a therapist waiting room what they're in for? Come on, Zoey.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm also thinking that the doctor is now going to be worrying about HIPAA confidentiality if one of his patients can read the other patient's minds. Is that a violation? Should he be doing something?
Right.
Is
or his own mind.
Yes. Is by not saying anything, is he, is it a violation? But yeah, he's got to be really careful. Well, I mean, I'm sure he doesn't believe that she actually hears songs.
I think that's it. He doesn't.
I can anticipate that we will be hearing him sing something, no?
Yes.
And will it be, let's think of what song would be that he's thinking about anything but what she's talking about.
Right. It'll be like, I really want noodles for lunch or something.
That's right. His heart is longing for lunch. Can we just get through this last appointment? Yeah, well, lots to look forward to. On lots more relationship stress.
I don't know how many more episodes there are of this show, though.
Yeah, how long was the season last year?
I can't remember, and I can't seem to figure out yet what the deal is for this year.
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention that in that scene in the waiting room, one of the patients there was Mandy Moore, not the actress, the choreographer who does the choreography on this show and also directed this episode, and appeared in a scene. So, hi, Mandy, I see ya.
Oh, I missed that.
I think I noticed it because she had mentioned it on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
So, some vague reference to it, and so then when I saw her, I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Anyway, good for her.
Yeah.
So, dragging our feet reluctantly, let's, run around San Francisco first, take a little time, and finally return to Neptune.
Yes. For
an episode entitled The Bitch is Back, which I don't think ever actually... Who do we think the bitch is in this scenario? Is it supposed to be Veronica because now she's once more an outcast?
Yeah.
Or is it, I thought we did get a big painting of Lily. I was hoping it would be Ghost Lily coming back. We did get a large and extremely creepy painting of her, but, whatever, writers of Veronica Mars and your titles.
I thought it just referred to her kind of being back on her old form of seeking and exacting revenge.
I guess so, at the expense of people who love her, once again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Keith. Poor Keith. I would feel better for you, man, if I didn't think that Neptune doesn't deserve you and you need to move someplace else, assuming you duck the charge and don't go to jail. I beg you. Move. This place will deserve Vinnie Van Lowe and the Fitzpatrick's-inspired chaos that will follow his election. And I am not sad that we will not be there for that. Certainly, Veronica Mars, this is the end of the original run of episodes. It does not actually end here, though, because many years later, fans financed a movie, and then a fourth season cropped up, which we will, I suppose, get to. But considering this as a last episode of the series, which is what it was at the time, it did feel like it kind of came full circle. We got Jake Kane back looking like he is much the worse for wear. I don't know what this dude has been doing in the time he hasn't been on the show, but either the character or the actor looks to have fallen upon some hard times. He's still rich enough to have a large mansion, but not rich enough to buy a razor, apparently. So yeah. It's a sad thing.
And there's no Celeste in sight. And
did we hear that they got divorced?
Well, I don't know, because on the podcast they kept talking about how he was like a bachelor and Clarence Weedman was his only friend. Clarence Weedman, his employee.
Yes.
But I don't feel like they ever mentioned specifically on the show that that they were divorced or...
No.
Or she was dead or something. They never said.
Yeah, we can only, think longingly of that possibility. But yeah, he's in it. So, once again, she's going up against the big bad rich people and, getting revenge and doing things that, not telling her dad. And it just, so it did feel like it was sort of a return to season one. And there were some satisfying elements of that. It was satisfying seeing her get revenge on jerky people and solve a case. Mm-hmm. But
But also, it did feel kind of recycled for them to do a secret society because...
Yes, it did.
She already did that I think it was season 1, right? When they had that...
Yeah.
Tritons or whatever.
One of them seasons, yeah.
So that was sort of frustrating, like they couldn't come up with something else.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoyed her, like, just tracking it down and figuring it out and, like you said, exacting her revenge on the terrible people.
Right.
And you had Mac helping her and Weevil helping her and, of course, Wallace helping her in a horrible way.
In a horrible way, which seems unnecessary, but... Yeah, just throw a little torture in there, right there at the end. So he started the series taped to a flagpole. He ends the series having a shock collar on.
Right.
Yay! And Logan, certainly didn't come full circle to go back to being the evil person he was, but he's, sort of back to solving things in his own unique way, which is to just beat the bleep out of people. Mm-hmm. So he seems happy in the end. To be back to doing that.
Right.
When I was with Veronica, I couldn't just randomly beat up people, but now she's not my girlfriend anymore.
And this is the episode in which Parker breaks up with him, which we had been a little bit confused about because the podcast made it seem like it had already happened.
Right.
So
she had a rough freshman year of college, that girl.
Parker.
And now she has to go back to Denver.
Yeah.
And be refused things with processed flour by her parents.
No bagels for you, Parker. She'll be dying to come back to Hearst College, even though
with that
terrible.
Delicious, delicious food court on which she can get whatever fried treats she wishes. But that is a sad, I guess, end for her, although she stood up for herself, I guess, and clearly, Logan was never that into you, baby, I hate to say.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the third season as a whole, it certainly was not as satisfying in terms of just not having any sort of season long.
Yes.
Having 2 half-season arcs, one of which was a serial rapist, so no thank you.
Yeah. And the second of which was tied up abruptly.
And was extremely confusing and and not a lot of stakes, right?
Yeah.
Because we enjoyed Ed Begley Jr. as Cyrus O'Dell, but it wasn't the same as trying to figure out who killed Lily.
Right. Yes. It lacked a certain emotional heft. But the first, looking back now over the arc of the 3 seasons, the first season, there were underwhelming episodes in the first season, obviously. But as a whole, as I look back on it, it was really good. It was by far the best of the 3 seasons.
Yeah.
They had a very satisfying arc, which they took their time with. And, you were able to figure out who the bad guy was, but over some time and with some doubt. And then there was that spectacular reveal. And, it was very nicely paced, I think, and there were tons of emotional stakes. Mm-hmm. And, lots of characters in pain and dealing with real problems, and the whole socioeconomic, mess up of the town. And the ones since just haven't really done that. The stakes haven't been the same. They've tried, but, certainly the way things ended for Cassidy was of a piece with the first season, but that was kind of thrown in there at the end. You didn't really get that building all through the season.
Right. Yeah, in that one, it felt like they didn't know at the beginning of the season who the villain was. Mm-hmm. And they kind of figured it out as they went along.
Yeah. And really, I'm not sure they knew in the first season either, because I don't think Aaron was that much of a thing at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But once he started just being a monster on every 2 or 3 episodes, it really built well and, really established the tortured childhood of Logan's character, which can then give him a pass for a lot of what happens after. But it just sort of lost its way, I guess. In this season, season 2 had its moments, but season 3 was just really unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, on the Veronica Mars Investigations podcast, they were mentioning the sort of behind-the-scenes stuff, that it switched networks and that the CW wanted certain things and certain makeups of the cast and, the length of the season they had determined what they could do and all of that stuff. And so it really is with TV shows. Sometimes, they can't do what they could have done because of restrictions placed on them.
Right.
So I don't necessarily blame the writers for all of this. I blame them for the titles. I blame them for some of the characters and ways things were written, but clearly the story arcs, the season arcs were the fault of network interference. Mm-hmm. And that was a mistake.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody has looked back and said, we should have done that differently, but they should have done that differently. And I do really, whereas Veronica apparently sinking Keith's sheriff aspirations is, consistent within the first season where she was doing irresponsible things behind his back and causing some problems. It would have been a nice full circle for him to be back as sheriff, wouldn't it? Because the show started with him having been outcast for pursuing Jake in the murder of Lily, and it would have been nice for him to sort of get back in and end with that. Because apparently that's what he wants, and it makes him happy. And darn it, I want Keith to be happy, even though I think
you think
should flee.
Very bad idea.
So that I would have enjoyed sort of that nice ending for him. Mm-hmm. But that's not his life. That's not the daughter he raised.
Right.
Probably raising your kid as a PI. Not.
And I guess back in the day they didn't have, early voting. So it's not like he would have been able to get away with it. I'm
just going to imagine that a large amount of Neptune said, oh, he's done something bad to Jake Kane. Yes, I'm going to vote for that man.
Right.
I don't care if it was illegal. But we're given to believe that will not be the case.
Yes. We're also given to believe that it never rains in Southern California, but then it does.
But it pours, man, it pours. So, yeah, all noiry there at the end. Mm-hmm. Oh, Veronica, is the FBI still going to take you now that you have a sex tape? Apparently they do.
Because apparently there was a little teaser for a season of that, which I do not have access to, but...
Yeah, it didn't play on Hulu, but although it may be there someplace. But I really don't care because it's a thing that never happened.
Right.
Well, that was a show that we watched. It was interesting. We talked before about Alan Sepinwall has a podcast called Too Long Didn't Watch, in which he has a celebrity guest on who watches the first and the last episode of a TV show and then tries to figure out what the heck. And Camille Nanjiani did Veronica Mars. So I've had that waiting until I finished season 3 to listen to it, because they decided to end it at season 3 to be at the original run. And holy cow, it's like a completely different show at the end of the third season, which you expected to be about at the first episode. He was thinking that the solving Lily's murder was going to go for 3 seasons and that, certain characters were going to be important, and like none of those characters were there at the end. And you're just thinking about all the changes that happened in just 3 seasons. It's supposed to be like 3 years of this person's life. And it's like, I was trying to explain some things. My husband watched the first season with me, and then just time-wise, it didn't work out from there. And every time I tried to tell him something that happened in the finale, he was like, well, what is that? And then it's like I had to keep going back and back and back and explain things, because it's like there's very little through line from that episode to this one. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but, at least they did drag poor Jake back from the street corner he was living on in Los Angeles for this final episode. And we got paintings of Lily and Duncan. Remember them? Remember when they were in this show?
Remember when they were extremely important in this show? They
were vital to the show. And remember when Logan was kind of a bad boy and not just a tortured soul? Yeah. Anyway. Well, this was not, in fact, the end of Veronica Mars. There was a fan-funded movie, which I guess we are going to watch next week.
Yeah.
Just when we think we're done, it pulls us back in.
Yes.
And after that, there will be a season 4, which we will also watch because we are completists, even if it kills us. And
but I don't think we're going to go so far as the Veronica Mars Investigations podcast and read the books.
We are not reading the books. We will listen to the podcast about the books. And if they sound good, maybe I'll look them up on Audible. But no, we are not that completist. We are completist with things that you can watch on a screen. And we will also next week watch the next episode of Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist, which is called Zoey's Extraordinary Session. Do we think this is the one where the psychiatrist sings?
Yes.
Must be, right?
Yes, I bet.
That could be awkward. So, I really like your insights, doctor, but you don't sing that well. I'm gonna look for somebody else. Anyway, and so that is going to be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes. We have something new for you every weekday. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, Terry.
Goodbye, everybody.